One of the proponents of what we're calling the arch tax has said this is about more than our arch grounds or our parks and our green spaces. This is about making St. Louis a better place to live. And joining us from New York is Rachel Abrams with Turnstone Consulting. And Rachel tries to do just that, make cities a better place to live. First, just tell us a little bit about your work and what you do.
I basically tell stories about places to the public and to city agencies to help them understand what a future of placemaking could be in the places that they live and work.
So can something like our parks, like our arch grounds, can that make St. Louis a better place to live? That's a pretty tall order.
A public place in a city is the kind of an interface, the meeting point where people see how their tax dollars get spent, but it's also a place where they can go to be participants in their communities and come together.
Can $780 million is what they say this will roughly raise over the 20-year life of this tax. Can that do something to radically change or improve the arch grounds and our parks and other green spaces, or is that even the right question to ask? Is it about more than money?
If things are successful, if programs are put in place that far reach beyond the initial public imagination of what could be, then the accountability of the people that raise the money from people's taxes shifts to a place where people feel positive that actually that is exactly the kind of thing that public resources should be spent on, and that they choose by participating in them, by making those places successful, to kind of give them a thumbs up, to give them a kind of democratic seal of approval as well.
But we're still talking about public money and public spaces.
If you could demonstrate that as a token, as an icon, a signifier of change in the whole city, this project is the center of a network of initiatives and programs of change to both make the city more accessible, to activate dead space, to bring publics together in places that are not privately owned for making money off consumers necessarily, that bring together different kinds of people, different constituencies from the city in ways that they weren't brought together before.
Is this important to our suburban friends who maybe visit the city for ball games and whatnot from time to time? Is this something we should care about as a larger region?
You can't have a center unless there's a periphery. And it can't be a vibrant hub unless it's part of a network of other places that think of it in a positive way. So absolutely, it's a local issue. It's going to affect the neighborhood around it. I'm just thinking about the tension there was about Atlantic Yards in New York City when the Barclays Center was in plan, and it's been interesting to witness how a mixture of things, how the change on the landscape, the actual appearance of the building, and then the network of stars that have come to perform there, and the way the press, certain corners of the press have got behind the project, sort of shifted the where the loudest voices were.
Okay, so you've worked in cities all over the world. Let's talk about the future and what you're working on now. Help us cast that vision, if you will, a little bit. What is working around the world? What do you think we should be looking at here in St. Louis?
I think that this idea of networks within cities is really interesting, and also this intersection of both a kind of bunch of things. The intersection between public and private groups within these kinds of debates is really interesting. The role of non-governmental groups and anyone representing citizens as well as the city at large. I also think that the intersection between digital space and physical place is really, really important to think about. Probably looking at post-Olympics legacies around the world is a pretty interesting one. And certainly Barcelona did very well and established a global reputation for making the most of the Olympic Park after the games had finished. It remains an extremely vibrant and restored part of that beachfront town.
If a city is to get to where we're talking about this vision here, what's the path? What is it going to take?
It's really important to think about, first of all, what the kind of easy wins are, what would be worth doing immediately and can be put into effect immediately to demonstrate that we're on our way, that is easy in the sense of it's straightforward to put into action, but also doesn't cost a lot and demonstrates an improvement right away. Then you're in a much better place. You've created a foundation from which to introduce longer term, slightly more difficult, slightly more resource intensive change. There's the example in New York is that if it's going to take a generation to build the Second Avenue subway, in the meantime, putting express bus routes into cities where it takes ages to dig up a street or a whole line could go. I think that's a kind of demonstration of there's a now and a next.
Tell me more what you mean by that, because we have heard that in the discussion around this arch tax about the future of St. Louis.
Well, I'm in a city that is full of stories about itself here in New York City, and you can tell by my accent I'm a Brit, and I grew up in London, also full of history, steeped in it, up to its neck in it, to the point where in the 80s and 90s it was actually quite difficult to move ahead from post-war rebuilding to a sense of what city centres could be. I think in St. Louis, and everything I've read and heard about this project, is it's focused on a kind of 20th century idea of having a physical place and a very visible physical icon that's fixed in a location that people know it for. And now we're in an age where images of cities are transferred all over the place.
That story that has to be told.
Right, absolutely. And having it be an authentic one that people believe and want to tell themselves to other people about the place they're from.